Okay, we didn't move, but still in the same house in Huntingburg on First Avenue, which, as you know, is the last house that I lived in with my family there. Um, Actually, in a second I'll tell you about. There's another house, but not the family house. I lived in a second. I'll tell you about that in a second. But there's no other house at the family. Dad bought that house there on First Avenue, and that was it. And that's where he and Mom would remain until he passed. And then after he passed, Mom moved into that trailer. Okay, so I think we were talking about I was in the band. I'm turning 16, so I got a car. So let's okay. Nancy's married. Now we're getting to a point where Nancy's gotten married. She married a guy named Spangler, who was the son of a teacher in town, and then we won't get into all that. But and then Linda gets married to Kenny, and so I'm still in the house. Let's see, I'm about 16, and of course Debbie's still in the house. Michael's still in the house. And Kim, the baby, is still in the house. We still haven't got to Matt and Brad yet. So this is like we're around 1966-ish, 7-ish, I'm 60, so I get my license at 16 and had the car so I got and Dad's working for the city. Dad's not drinking. Things are going better, for Mom because he doesn't drink anymore, and that solved a lot of problems and it made her life a whole heck of a lot easier, and just made life in general a lot easier. It made Dad's life a lot easier. He gets a good job at the city and so on. Now, it's not really funny, but I got to backtrack a little bit because I told you about the incident with the car pulling the trailer and the wheel came off the car, and so on, and that was going to be our trailer for the band equipment. Well, that never worked out because the car wrecked the trailer wrecked, and so that was the end of that. So, but anyway, so I'm the only actually, when I think about it, that was a '55 Chevy. So let's back up a little bit because before that incident happened, this incident I'm going to tell you about happened. And I probably said this before, but you can always remember the times the biggest disappointments you had, for you. And for me, it's like the times that disappointed Dad. And that was in that '55 Chevy. So it had to be before that accident because after the accident, the Chevy was gone. So now, so I wasn't, I never really liked the taste of alcohol that much, and it was common for young guys that age, when you got your license and stuff, the thing to do is you'd get some guy, older guy, some alky, or whatever you want to call them, we'd be hanging around the liquor stores. You'd give them a couple bucks and they'd go in and get you, because we're not 21, so to go in and buy a case of beer, usually Stroh's or Pabst or whatever. Or whatever. Definitely wasn't Coors yet. So whatever the beer was, it seemed like Stroh's was there a lot, Pabst. And on the weekend, you get, we get together and we go out in the car and get a case of beer and some ice, I guess, I don't know, and put it in the trunk, and that was pretty common. Or just go somewhere, get a couple 6-packs, but you had to go find the guy that adult to buy the booze for you. And usually they were these guys. You usually find some guy that was an alcoholic who was standing around outside the liquor stores to buy you some beer, or you'd get somebody's older brother or something. So, but anyway, it's me and Mike and Noble Hawkmaster, the guitar player. This is in the car, in that '55 Chevy, and we're out Friday night, Saturday night. I don't remember what it was, but like I said, I didn't like beer much, but you know, you get the pressure, the peer pressure going on, um, and that's, you know, it's Du Bois County. You know, it's beer. You know, there's no whiskey or anything like that. It's that people would drink. You know, it's beer. And so we got the beer. We were together driving around Friday or Saturday night. Noble, me, and Mike, and we're and I usually would take the, you know, we'd get they drinking it, and I'd usually take a beer and I'd like nurse it for an hour or something. And I had never gotten drunk, and I'd never been drunk. Mike, Mike had a lot, and I don't remember so much about Noble, but Mike is always like he's always liked beer. I think his mom and dad drank a lot of beer. Maybe that's where it came from. But Indiana Cup. Hey, so we're out driving in the car, and we you know we usually would drive over to Jasper and try to hit the hot, what we call the hot spots where teenagers would be. Jerry's restaurant in Jasper, just back driving around. And so, you know, eventually, you know, I guess we were around long enough. I got to the point where I guess I had nursed a beer long enough, or maybe got into a second one. Anyway, you know, you get to a point sometime where you don't taste it. What didn't taste so good in the beginning, finally it doesn't. It tastes okay, you know. So I probably had 3 or 4 beers in me, which for me that would have made me pretty drunk. And we're driving. We're in Huntingburg, and just I was just got to the point where I couldn't drive anymore. So and I think I think I started getting sick, and so I just I just pulled over and said something like somebody else drive or something, and I just went in the back seat and laid down. And Mike was driving the car. And somehow the word must have got out, to my dad that your son's driving around town. There were 3 of the guys in the car, and it's all they're driving around pretty crazy. And because Mike was drunk, I guess he was not quite as drunk. Well, he was drunk, but he wasn't sick like I was. So, and I remember, somewhere along the line, we ended up down by Trotter's gas station there. And I hear somebody say, "That's Tim's dad," because he had that it was a bright orangish red city truck, so they knew the truck, and so they pulled in right there to the gas station, Calvin Trotter gas station there, and parked the car, and they took off. They were gone. And next thing I know, Dad's opening up the door, and all he says is, "Get in the truck." And so I was like, "Oh my God, my dad's found me drunk," and he says, "Get in the truck." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna act like I'm not, I'm put on my best." I'm not drunk walk or something, which was not good. And so I ended up in the truck. I get out of the car, close the car door. I think he locked the car door, takes me in the truck, takes me in home. I don't know how he got back down to that car, but he after that he got the car and brought it home. And he never said anything to me. He took the keys. He just told me, "Go, just get in the house." When we got it, get in the car, and then we got home. He says, "Just get in the house," and that's all he ever said about that. He never said anything else about that at all. He took the keys away, and I remember the next day, I think Mom said, "Your dad said you can't have the car keys for a while." I don't know how long it was going to be, but. I just you're like, okay, or I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I didn't want to face up to my dad, Now, it was bad for the moment, because he had found me drunk, and I had never, I don't. Yeah, that was the first time I think I had. It's not the first time I drink alcohol. I mean, I said I didn't like. It didn't. Alcohol really didn't appeal to me that much, But when you're with the guys and they're drinking beer, you gotta have. It's like anything else. You're kind of you gotta drink too. So that would be the only time I would really drink. But uh, he didn't say much. Now it takes. Sometimes you have to go through life and figure out years later. Because I'm a teenager. I'm 16 years old. I'm not. You're not thinking about you hurting your dad. You're just thinking about, oh my, I got caught. But as the time would go on, you realize, and I know that he, like I said, he didn't say anything, but you realize he didn't. Yeah, I'm sure it hurt him in the fact that here he was, and he had drank all these years, and he'd stopped drinking, but now his son is in his car, drunk, and driving around, So I know, that had to hurt him, and I'm pretty sure that's why he didn't really say too much to me. He never spoke about that moment again in the rest of my time at home or ever again. That subject never came up again, never. So, when you hurt somebody, and I knew a little bit then, but as time would go on, I look back on it now, I go, man, that was bad. How'd you do that? So it's like one of those moments in your life. I'd like to get that one back, And so, I don't think it's probably a week or two I had the car keys back again. Because obviously I definitely had it back before we had the accident. So there's that. Not a good moment, but it's one of those moments in life where you did something wrong. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, and so. But I learned a lesson that later on you can apply to your life when you become a father. So okay, so. So the band would go on for a couple of years, and then I said no was good. Well, it didn't take very long before he got recognized by some really big groups in the area, and he got an offer from a band over in Vincennes, which is like the big city, a group. They had all kind of things. They had horns, and they were a big time band. So, and he couldn't turn that down. So he left us to go play with them, and then he would go on in life to be professionally. Noah was, like I said, this guy was a great guitar player. So the band eventually broke up. I'm in love with this certain young girl. And I'm really in love. This isn't like go with this girl for a couple of weeks and I move on to the next, or I get dropped by her and then I move on to the next or something. It's just like there's several girls, but this one just was like, it's one of those. It's like, oh, this one's this was no, I was in love. We were in love, and so I'm working. I'm not, as far as the rest of the kids in the house, I'm my own selfish self, and I don't know what Michael's doing. I don't know what Debbie's doing. I don't know what Kim's doing. I'm too much into myself and my car and music and working and stuff and my girlfriend. I don't. Everything else is like it's there, but I'm not paying much attention to it. I'm working I had started working the job at Hunter's Bowl, the 16-lane mega bowling center in Huntingburg, and it comes time to graduate from high school. When I graduated from high school, I was 17. And that was like my freedom. I mean, I couldn't wait. music and being in music and in the school, the choir and stuff, and competition, and every year there was competition and being involved in the choir that kept me in school. And also, I wanted to be around this young lady that I was in love with, and she was a year behind me in school. So, uh, and so graduated from high school. Man, that moment was like freedom for me. Um, I I was like, this is I'm out of here now. I'm gonna go. I'm on. Had no goal, really no goals. I didn't really, unfortunately. Um, that's why it's important to, when you have kids, you should start talking about the future with them. Now, if my dad and mom, uh, I think I started to say their biggest failure was they didn't say there wasn't anything to talk about after high school. It was just graduate high school. I think for Dad, maybe that was his biggest goal. He was only able to go to the eighth grade in school, and because he had to work and help his family. And so I know it bothered him a lot that he couldn't do that. But I think it was important that his kids finish high school. So if he could get his kids all of them finish and graduate high school, that was his goal. And it wasn't after that it was like he always told me you need to get out of this town. I heard that more and more. You need to get out of this town, meaning that if you're going to do something in life, you got to get out of here. You got to do something better than this. So I'm working. I had been working this part-time job at the bowling center, Hunters Bowl, like I said, and then I graduated from high school, and then they offered me the job of what they called the mechanic. I don't know if there's a something mechanic. Basically, the person who took care of all those pin setters and fixed them when they broke. And then there's like general maintenance you did around the building. And you're supposed to be able to take care of anything mechanical around the building. So why they hired me, I have no idea. Because all I knew how to do was fix jams and machines, conditioning lanes, and that type of stuff. And so there was a school that was Brunswick that I was supposed to go to. And the manager kept telling me he was going to send me to the school. If I'd stay there and work as full time, then he would send me to the school. And he didn't, he didn't, and finally, I after liking him, as a manager there and working for him, I just realized he's not going to send me to the school. I don't know what. I guess maybe they had part of it had to come out of that bowling center had to pay for it, but he wasn't going to send me. So I just got, I'm out of school anyway, and so I heard that there was an opening for what I was doing in Bedford, and they had a 32 lane bowling center, so I could make more money there. But I had to move there, and but I just was like, I'll just show you. I'll take this job at Bedford, and so I'll leave. Now, let me backtrack a little bit on this, because I know I've told this to a lot of people, so you've probably heard me say this before. When I was working there at the bowling center after graduating from high school, I started working for them full time. I don't remember what the pay was. It wasn't great, and so maybe that's the reason they put up with me. And I say put up with me because I was notorious for being late. I was always late, every day, and sometimes hours late getting to work, and so I look back I was just like, at the time, like, oh man, I'm late again. I was notoriously late. Why would you keep paying somebody to come to work when they're just late every day? I could never be on time. And it's not 5 minutes. We're talking 30 minutes, hours. So I don't know why they kept me there. And then I think more about it. I thought, well, they probably couldn't find anybody else to take the job because it didn't pay much. And so, but anyway, I took the job. I found out there was a job in Bedford, and so I took a job there. That was doomed from the beginning, because I had to go there and get a little apartment and stay there, and the manager there and that didn't work out good. So I don't know, that maybe it lasted a couple months, and it was a disaster. I should have, and I was like always, I was back in Huntingburg more than I was in Bedford all the time anyway, because I had to get back to see this. I had to get back to see my girlfriend um, all the time. So that didn't really. I was just trying to prove a point anyway, and it backfired on me. And so, but what do you say? Lesson learned, something? I don't know what it is. So I come back home to Huntingburg after working there for a couple months, or supposedly working there, and so I can't go back, to work at Hunter's Bowl. I already, I told him basically take a hike. So now I got to find. Well, this is also about the time that Ed comes back. He's finished his 4 years, and maybe now he's back, and so of course. He's kind of like, he's like, what happened to you while I'm gone? Well, a lot of things happen in 4 years, they were good and bad, and he heard about all the bad things, and now I'm smoking and what's happened to me in an incident, a couple of years back where I got in trouble with the police. And so, but Ed's my man, we were friends. We were best friends at time. And so he comes back and he says, well, let's get a house together. Let's rent a house. So we rent a house, which is really not far from, it's like one street north of First Avenue. There's an old house there. And so we said, let's rent a house and we'll go find a job. He says, no, let's go find a job. And so we worked at Jasper Corporation for a while. That's like assembly line work there. And we worked at the turkey chicken processing plant, because they made butterball turkeys there. And I can't remember, let's see. So, which was, they were like working at the corporation there in Jasper. It's a woodworking factory. It's probably still there because that's what people in those Germans famous for, woodwork. But they start you out there and you're working on. The first thing they do is you put these boxes together. So it's like that's what, and then finally you get to be put on the line. The assembly line, and you'd have one job. Furniture would come down, you'd put 8 screws in, whatever it was, and it keeps going. You do that. That's all you do all day long. And so we didn't. Well, actually, before that, Ed and I worked at the turkey processing plant, and I was at it's like any place. You start first, you get the worst jobs. Ed was much bigger than me, but he got the room where you inject the turkey with the butter, whatever that stuff is. He got that job. I'm out there where at the end of the line where these turkeys are quick frozen, and you put 4 of them in a box, you put them on these pallets, and you stack them, and then you take them into the, on the, whatever they call that, machine, truck thing that puts them into the freezer. I forget how high you had to stack those. It was like three wide and 7 high or something like that. These turkeys are like 15 pounds a piece. It's like, and 4 in a box. So I guess get them as they're coming off this line. They're quick frozen. You put them in these boxes, put 4 in a box, put them down, and keep stacking these, stack. And you put them in this freezer. That freezer scared the hell out of me, because it's like 50 below in there, And I was always afraid, I'd get stuck in there. You got to be putting this load of turkeys in there. I was always afraid, oh man, they don't get this. If this door doesn't open when I push this button, that always scared me about that. So I think, and the whole thing of, you don't really want to know about what goes on, and I guess maybe that wasn't the worst job. Probably the worst job was when the turkeys come in. They take one leg and hook them on this line, and then they get processed. And then you got these turkeys. First they're alive, and then a couple minutes later they're not alive. And so I guess that would have been worse. So these dead turkeys, going through this line, and then they get their feathers taken off, their guts taken out, and all that stuff. Okay, so moving on. So actually, that had to be before the corporation, because, and we're not doing really. I don't think. Maybe we were playing. I think Ed and I and Mike, a guy named Kerry Trusty, some other people. Were trying to. We would maybe play somewhere in town, somewhere as far as the band and stuff, but it wasn't. Noble was it. Once Noble left, it really wasn't good anymore. I think we, just some small gigs or something around town, but nothing like, Noble was the heart of the group. So that's going downhill, even though Ed's back and he's the drummer and stuff. So, but that's not going anywhere. And I'm working at like I said, the Jasper Corporation. While we moved, I moved up to the assembly line, and I'm 18 years old now. I'm on this assembly line, and there's another line over here, another line over here. I remember one day looking over at a guy, and he must have been like 50 years old, and I worked at this place. I thought we'd make a good. Oh man, we made $100 this week. And sometimes we worked overtime. We made $120. Oh my God, we were making tons of money. Yeah, right. But it was big money at the time. But I remember looking at this other guy, older guy on the line, and he was like 50. So I'm 18. So he could have been 45. When you're that age, anybody past 40 looks like they're ancient. So. And I'm thinking, as I'm putting in these screws, I'm going, this is what I'm going to do till I get that age, something to that effect in my mind. I'm going, no, this is no, this. So that's the first time when I realized this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to. I got to do. I didn't know what, and so exactly what I wanted to do, but. Having listened to Wally Frick and some other people around town, they had been in the Navy, and now Vietnam hasn't gone over yet, so I'm not thinking too clearly here. It's still 1970 going into 71, and but I knew I had to do something, and there wasn't anything else in Du Bois County. To do. So I'm thinking, man, all that stuff, Wally was talking about, being in the Navy and all that stuff. Man, he had stereo equipment and all the places he'd been and all the stuff he'd done. Maybe, man, that, and he went to always talking about California because Navy, he was in San Diego. And so, in LA and all that. Oh, it sounded, that'd be cool. That's what so I'm thinking, I'm gonna join the military. I'm gonna join the Navy. And so that's what. And Ed was in the Navy, so I'm saying, Ed, I'm gonna join. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I'm sure it was somehow encouraging. But so I go down to by the recruiter, which seems like it was somewhere over by the Jasper courthouse. And talk to the recruiter, and okay, young man, let's get you. So you do all the initial tests and all that stuff. I had to go down to Louisville, Kentucky, and do the initial processing. You take all the tests, and they do your exam and stuff. Oh, by the way, at that time when I came up, my blood pressures were like 142 over 80 or something, so I had to come back and have my doctor check my blood pressure for 3 days, and if it was normal, then they would take me, which they did. They accepted me medically, and so go to Louisville. Get all the tests done, and they're ready to take me, and I gotta wait for a date to go down and swear in. So I'm back in town, and then. Sometimes, you get alone in your moments and you think, okay, Wally was saying all these things, but then I start to remember something, he was on the aircraft carrier and all this stuff, but then I thought, what? He was saying something about how long were they out to sea, like months and months. I go, oh, wait a minute. So I began to rethink this. I go, well, yeah, he told me all these good things, but they also downplayed the bad things, you know. And so I thought, no, wait a minute. Let me rethink this thing. So I thought, no, I want to join the military, but I think maybe let me go talk to the Army. So I'll go talk to the Army recruiter. Of course, I don't know this at the time, but you know, all those exams, those are the service exams. There's different branches of service, but they all use the same service exams. And I'd already taken my physical, and I already passed the mental, whatever, taking the test to determine what your aptitude is and all that stuff. And I said, listen, you know, I would talk to the Navy, but you know, is it possible I could? I haven't really sworn in yet. Is it possible I could join the Army? And he's like, I'm sure he's like, wow, this is easy. He's already, and he said, yeah. He says, as a matter of fact, we can give you. I mean, remember, Vietnam is not quite over with. They're having a hard time getting people in the military because of Vietnam. He says, I'll give you. I said, well, I want to do something like in electronics or something. Is there any kind of jobs like? Yeah, we can get you. We can do some electronic stuff. And I said, but I want to go to California. Can I do that? He said, I can let you do both of those. He was. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was a young guy, didn't know exactly what he was doing. But the truth was, you could have one of those. You could get a guaranteed location after basic training and your job training, or you could have a guaranteed job, you know. You can't have both, you know. Well, I thought I had both. And there's like a lot of things. They just shoved the paperwork at me. I signed them. And I took off for the Army. I went back to Louisville, but instead of joining the Navy, I ended up in the Army. And so I think we'll go from there. You know, I mean, I'll go from there later. So basically, I don't remember. You know, Vietnam's still going on. Dad didn't. I think maybe he thought I was bluffing or something. Because really, my relationship with my dad at the time had gotten kind of sour. And here I was, it was like a year or so after high school. I graduated from high school, and he was right, you know. I hadn't moved on, you know. I hadn't done anything. I'm not doing anything. You got to move on your life. Here you're sitting, you and your friend are in this house together, and you're not doing anything but having party there and parties or what. Not really, but you're not getting on with your life, you know. He's looking for me to find a place to work and stay, and I'm just jumping around and going from one job to the next, and so we're not really seeing eye to eye on anything. And, you know, there was like he let's just put it this way, he wasn't happy with me at the time, and he had good reason to be. You know, I was kind of stuck. I needed to get going. You know, I don't think he think I was going to join the Army because Vietnam was you know, still on, and it wasn't the Navy, it was the Army. But he didn't discourage me, you know. He didn't encourage me, but he didn't discourage me. And after I did, you know, join, he did come down for my graduation, and to Fort Knox, because that's where I took me. So I'm in the Army, taking off on life, and so I've left Huntingburg. Of course, the dream was I'd go in the Army a couple of years and come back home and do what? I mean, no, I didn't see. I still didn't have a plan. You know, it was just like one day at a time. You know, it's like, okay, I'll go do this and see what this is. You know, I hope, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know exactly what I thought was going to happen. But maybe I'll talk about later. After I left home and joined the Army, maybe I could do it. But that's basically it. Because right before I left, you know, Matt was born. Matt was born at 66, 67, and that was a shock. You know, I mean, it's like Kimberly was born in '61, so it's like 7 years later. Well, we weren't. Nobody was expecting mom and dad to have any more kids. And then another year later, during my senior year of high school, Matt here. I mean, not Matt, but Brad would come. I'm going, what? And so, and so that's why I don't really. My two younger brothers, I have no. And I joined the military, and as you all know, I eventually would stay in the Army. So I had almost no relationship with my two younger brothers because of that. When I left, they were a baby and a bigger baby, basically. And so I didn't have much of a relationship with them in going through life. So as I and they were going through life. So I don't know what the house was like after. Well, it was different, and we could talk about that later. The family life then, but after we left, after all the older kids left, and so maybe Kimberly and Debbie and Mike could talk to that more. But I don't know what happened. I'm gone. I'm in the Army. I'm going, and then well, we'll talk about that later. So that's pretty. When I think now about all those places that we lived in, and all the we went through a lot of hardships, a lot of houses with pumps. You had wells, and you had to pump your water. You took a bath in a big old galvanized metal container. You just don't have much money. You don't. You got maybe a black and white TV with one channel you could get, some kind of station on if you had the antenna turned right. Your dad's drinking and drunk every weekend, spending all the money that he made good money, but it was on alcohol, and so you kind of and even though when I look at it now, we were just months from what I call town. I mean, not months, but just a few miles from town. But we were isolated. I mean, I couldn't just go. That's why when I got older and was able to get into town, I go see my friends in town. That was great, because before that, I mean, we didn't go into town. We were out in the country there at Duff or Velpen or out on 64. So we were kind of isolated in a way. Even though we were very close, we were still isolated because Dad a lot of times didn't have a car, and so. But despite all the hard times, I didn't think of them at the time as hard times that we went through. My mom put up with all of that and made it through, and she kept us safe, and she kept us fed, and she was. In a way, you could say she was trapped too. I mean, at this time in life, mom doesn't have a driver's license. Mom doesn't work. She's got 6 kids, and so she's got this husband that's drunk every weekend, and when he is, he's abusive. He's the nicest guy in the world when he's sober, but he's not a nice person when he's drunk. And so she put up. She had no choice. But I never remember once. And I did get to tell this to her before she passed away. I don't know how she did that. I honestly, I don't. I don't think of my mom, as a really smart person. But I don't mean that as a derogatory way. But mom had a lot of common sense, and she had her own skills in a way. She fed us all. She made sure we had food. I don't remember ever going hungry. I remember thinking, I wish I had some more of whatever it was, some fried chicken or something. But she took care of us. She made sure we were warm at night, and we had food, and so and she protected us many times, from my father, Um, so, you know, uh, I, I don't know how she did it. I really don't, but I'm glad she found some strength somewhere. And in the end, you know, when Dad had stopped drinking and started working for the city, he tried in his own way to make it up to her. He would take her every week to someplace to eat. He would take her to get her hair fixed. He would take her. You know, you could just see that he's trying to make up, and he knew, you know, how bad he had been. So he would try to make it up in those later years. And he was really good to my mom in the last. Of course, he didn't live past 65, but his last 10 or 15 years, he did things for my mom, and I'm thankful for she got that, at the end, because she deserved it. She really deserved it. And Dad, uh, you know, I don't. You could say people would say. I'm sure when I tell the stories about Dad and he's drinking, and still I say, well, yeah, but still he's like a hero to me. Dad's bigger than life. Well, how could you like this man? I don't know. It's just that I was able to to separate the guy he was when he was sober, which was, everybody liked my dad, and he was one of those guys where if you needed some help doing anything, he would help you. And he was like a jack of all trades. Dad knew he wasn't an expert in anything, but he knew how to do a little bit of everything. And Dad, if he had got to finish high school in a different world, Dad was smart. He was smart, and he could have done so much better, but. It is what it is, and but some of the stuff that I believe in and I hold deep inside me, and at times when I go through life, I would say, well, his dad. Now I know what he would have done in this situation, so that's where I would take my guidance from. I always think. Oh, wait a minute. You're Haskell Gentry's son. What would he say? I wish I'd have listened to it even more. Because sometimes I've made a whole bunch of stupid mistakes in my life too. But he was he he just he had his demons, if you want to put it that way, but his heart was good, okay, and he tried to make it up to my mom, and he tried to make it up to me and all his kids in the end, for the pain that he'd caused during those years. I can never remember. There's no time I can remember. Just to give you an example, after I left and call home and be wherever I was in the Army and call home. Every conversation I had with Dad after that, at the end of the call, I was always going to hear this: Tim, you need anything? You need anything, son? If you need anything, let me know. He always said that. Every time. And there were a couple times there early on where I did need something, and he helped me. So he was. Like I said, he knew his faults. He knew the things that he'd done, and he tried during his later years to make up for those things, and he did pretty good at that. Okay, I wish he'd have quit drinking much sooner in life. He could have done much better. The city loved my dad. They gave him that job as the natural gas, the superintendent, and he was good at it. I mean. Those guys that worked for my dad would tell you, Dad was good, but he was one of those guys. He just about was like, you learn from him. Wasn't so much teaching. He just show you. Sometimes I think sometimes I get this from him too. I'm teaching people, but then I'll just go ahead. Well, and I'm trying to teach him. I go, well, let me just go ahead and do it. And Dad was that way too. But but in his later years, my dad proved to be a great example in his own way of what you should be. And I tried to follow that example. I tried to, everything that was good about him, I've tried in my life to, and I haven't, I've failed miserably lots of times, you know. I haven't lived up to, and I think about that sometimes, you know. But, okay, so we can talk about life after life when we get to the Army, but for right now, that's it. I talked to my sister Linda before she passed away, and I asked her, you know, when I'm talking about those, how rough we had it, and I before she passed away, I said, and I told, and in the 3 days, I think I spent about 3 days with her a couple of weeks before she passed from cancer, and I said, I want to ask you something, Linda. Is there, if you could change, if you would go back and change anything, would you change anything about our lives and the way we grew up and the things we had to put up with? And I wanted to ask her this a long time before, because I already knew how I felt, you know. I felt like no matter how bad it was, I wouldn't take anything. I wouldn't change anything, you know, which sounds stupid, but, and I asked her, and I thought, oh, I don't know what she's going to say, but she told me, I wouldn't change anything, Tim. I wouldn't change anything. And that was like the best thing she could tell me before she passed away. And because then I knew I'm not crazy. I'm not, you know, am I the only one who thinks there was some good in Dad, or are we just so callous about what happened? We would just think, you know, man, I wish that, you know, it was terrible and hideous. I wouldn't want that on anybody. But she said the same thing, you know, that she wouldn't change anything, you know, and I wouldn't either. I that's crazy, but I wouldn't. All those hardships, all those things that we did, I had to go through, you know, it's just, no. Yeah, it happened and it wasn't good, but I wouldn't change it. No, I wouldn't. So I've gone on too long on this one. That's part 3, First Avenue. And that puts me up to the time I left and joined the Army. So the song is Love and Honor, Johnny Rodriguez, 1973. I've sung this with me and my guitar, I don't know, 1,000 times maybe. Great, 1973, Johnny Rodriguez in his prime. Beautiful. It's a beautiful song. It's a great country song. It's a country song. Steel slide guitar, fiddles, just country lyrics. It's a great song. It's just a great song. There we go. Sacred vows both made yesterday, but when someone needed you and you were so inclined, I'll bet love and honor never crossed your mind. You're the woman who once gave me your hand. I am the understand.